Le chant du compagnon errant. I just love this ballet. It goes back to my time with Maurice Béjart, with the Ballet of the 20th Century, based in Brussels. And I was there at the creation. And it was a huge event because the company never took guest artists. Nothing like this had ever happened. I understand that Nureyev had begged, borrow or steal anything, Maurice Béjart, I would just love you to create something for me. And the result was Song of a Wayfarer. And it was done for Nureyev and Paolo Bartoluzzi, who was one of the absolute lead, extraordinary dancer as well. And I would sit on the floor and watch every single rehearsal as Maurice created. And it's quite interesting because the way he choreographed was really very, very quick, although he never prepared any steps, but he always knew exactly the ideas that he wanted to use. He knew the music backwards of anything that he choreographed. And one always felt that you were part of the creative process. So that was a lovely thing. Nothing was prepared, but it was very quick. And he hardly ever changed anything once he had choreographed, although with different interpreters, which I'm going to speak about a little bit. Then he would adapt to the particular talents and what he saw as the individual personality of the dancers who were going to dance a piece. And so with the Wayfarer, it just feels like a part of me. I've seen in Maurice Béjart's company, Nureyev first danced it with Bartoluzzi, and then George Don took it over and danced both the Red Man and the Blue Man. And subsequently, so many have performed it. And the Paris Opera also feel a certain sense of ownership, which I can understand, because so many of their top dancers have danced it, some with Nureyev, always as the Blue Man, and other dancers such as Éric Vuillon and Jean-Marie Didier, many others, as the Red. And then everyone remembers Laurent Hilaire and Manuel Legris, who performed it many times, but also for their farewell at the Paris Opera. So it's special to the Béjart company, but it's also very special to the Paris Opera. Béjart didn't really like to be very specific about some of his ballets. He liked to leave them very open to interpretation. And with this piece, he would speak sometimes about it being a relationship between a young person and finding their guru. But sometimes it was that the Red Man was a symbol of death. So the trajectory was through the Blue Man's life and taking him at the end, that extraordinary ending which should have one in tears, and I think it will many times here, when he's just taken away to wherever it might be. So in a way, because dancers often like to be told, what is it about? And I had to say, well, sometimes it's this and sometimes it's that. But the main thing is what it should mean to you, and that comes across to the audience, and that the audience even may take away a different story. Maurice loved to contradict himself. Well, yes and no. The amount of casts that are going on here at the Bastille, I think there are 6, maybe 6.5 casts. And it's been so fascinating working with each of them, because they all have actually a different interpretation, a different look. But I think that they have understood the Béjart style, and of course that's vital when you're working on a choreographer's piece. And Béjart had a very particular style with the broken wrists, which in classical ballet it's a no-no. But in his it's a very, very typical. And there are aspects of his choreography that are very delineated. And this piece is very classical in a way. And it's quite hard with very classically trained dancers to get them to lose wanting everything to be perfect, wanting to make images to put up on Instagram. I mean, not really, but it's almost, sometimes it can feel like that because classical dancers are so perfectionists. And here, you have to lose yourself in the music, lose yourself in the piece. And every dancer that has performed this will say at the end of their first performance and on, this piece is just such a journey and so extraordinary. And then as they perform it more, they realize that every single time it's different. And here, with a live orchestra and a live singer, we've got 3 different singers, not always singing with the same cast. So again, it renders it to be so much of the moment and of that time, and the tempi changes a little bit, and the communication between the 2 dancers, which is so vital. It's also interesting that the red man's role, he starts in the ballet with his back to the audience and is just a presence that makes himself felt more and more through the work, makes himself felt to the audience and to the blue man. But the communication that they have, not always looking at each other, but the feeling that the blue man feels that presence behind him, and that he wants, like a young man who just wants to live and have fun and be free. And then there's always this presence which is saying, no, this isn't right. You have to be correct. You have to have values. I'm telling you what is. And so this feeling between the 2 it's quite extraordinary. It's unlike any other ballet that I know, actually. It's been absolute bliss to be working with so many different casts. Our first cast, Germain Louvet and Hugo Marchand, they were so happy to be dancing together because they came up through the school, Paris Opera School, and so it was very special for them. And I mean, they're such amazing dancers. Several generations of male dancers at the Paris Opera are so exceptional. Another cast that has been a delight as well was Mathieu Gagnon with Audric Béjart. Mathieu, just such a sensitive person, an artist. I was trying to think of how many casts I have staged the ballet with, and I think it's now upward of 25 different casts through the years. Because in Australia, with the Australian Ballet, we performed it very, very many times. There is also Florent Mellac, who is a sujet, who's also going to perform it with Hugo Marchand, because it's been very complicated to cast this, because Wayne McGregor has, in the same time, his performance of Dante, which is going on at the Palais Garnier. And we've been pulling and pushing for rehearsals, running from Garnier to Bastille, to try and get everybody rehearsed. Another unusual thing, especially in this day and age, because I find many companies now work so much on a hierarchical system. But with maybe with José Martinez having just taken over at the helm, he's really interested in using the most talented, the most gifted, the most right casts for particular roles. We also have two very young dancers, Enzo Sogar, who is still in the corps de ballet, and Kadri, and Antoine Kircher, who was just promoted in November to premier danseur. And in the first rehearsals, he was very, very aware that this is his first big role since the promotion, and what a responsibility it is. But these two also, they just bring a freshness of outlook. I'm really rather proud, because I think they are completely right in the roles that we cast them. We were speaking with José about it, and with the ballet master, with Lionel Delanoë, and it seemed just right that Enzo should be the red guy and Antoine should be the blue. In some ways, he has just a little bit of a young Nureyev. It's quite curious. I just see the odd little bit there. And then we've got the two who've just been promoted to étoiles, Guillaume Diop and Marc Moreau. And they bring just such a freshness of approach. I can't even describe it. It's truly extraordinary. It's one of those ballets where really the audience needs to leave in tears.